So when you see these things, you fall for these things. No wonder that you're really struggling to know what's right and wrong. But this is the kind of person, the person that falls into this and has nobody around them, no peer relationships to say you need to really question that. Then you end up way deep in it before anything happens that you start to question. From New Life Ministries, this is Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn. I'm Stephen Arterburn. And Going Deeper is all about taking the tough issues, the hard issues of life, looking a little bit deeper inside so that we can gain some insight into our lives. Hi, welcome to Going Deeper. Steve Arterburn here. We're continuing our series on toxic faith. You might ask yourself, how do mature, bright, intelligent people get involved in a toxic church that's really sick? A person's very successful over here in this part of their life, and then they're intimately involved in this organization that's really sad and sick and abusive. Well, as we, Jack Felton and I, as we looked at different churches that were, you would have to say, toxic churches, we found some things that would lead to a person getting involved in a toxic faith church. One of the things that we found was that commonly there was an abusive parent that was in their history. Often it was the father, and could have been emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. But a lot of folks they're used to an abusive person. And you'd think that the last thing they do is get involved in a church where someone's abusive. Just like you'd think a person that was married to an alcoholic, the last thing they'd ever do is divorce that person and marry another alcoholic. But it's what they're used to. And what they'll do is they might find a better alcoholic who's a little more functional than the other one. Well, here you get comfortable with the abusive nature of a person. And so even though you'd think you'd rail against it, it still is something that you're used to. Often we discovered that the child that's deprived of nurturing, where neither parent is meeting that child's emotional needs. So what happens? If my emotional needs aren't being met, sometimes I will turn on the spirituality and develop a hyper spiritual aspect to my life that isn't authentic at all. When somebody comes in and my emotional needs haven't been met, and they're doing all sorts of things to reach me emotionally and relationally, and maybe they even whip things up into this incredible emotional high, and it feels good to me, it's relief, then I'm susceptible to wanting to be involved with those people. Folks that feel alienated as children, that are detached from the family, those are folks that are very likely to get involved with the toxic faith system, because they are geniuses at getting you sucked in to the system. Everybody feels welcome. Everybody's ushered in, made to feel like you're the most important person in the world. It all feels good. If you want to feel good, get $100,000 and walk into Tiffany Jewelers. You will, it's beautiful in there. You will feel, for however long you're there, 30 minutes or an hour, like the most important person in the universe, because you have something that Tiffany's would like. They would like to have your money. And many times these toxic churches just want your money so they can keep going. And so they'll do anything, make you feel any way to get at that money. Another thing that we find in people that get involved with these is that they had parents that had unrealistically high expectations of them. And so these demanding parents kind of set them up to be comfortable in demanding systems. And then often the parents had some kind of addiction problem. And so in that addiction scenario, the children's needs aren't met. And maybe they go out and look for a substitute parent in the absence of a full functioning parent. Often we see an absent father. Now this is really common. Where there's no dad and you've got this narcissistic, overbearing, strong, powerful male figure running the church, then you could see why somebody would want to be part of that church. And so they'll just get right into it as quickly as they can because they're looking for that father figure they never had. A person that feels a duty to other people. It's not like you serve because you want to or you do things because you volunteer, but you kind of feel compelled to do it, forced to do these things, like you don't have a choice. So you get into a system that's overbearing and you're really going to be used a lot and abused, overly committed. People with poor relationships in their peer group are also susceptible to toxic faith. You don't have anybody to say, hey, that's a really sick system and you don't want to be part of it. But if you don't have anybody around you to tell you about it, then you're just going to fall for it. There was a person in my life who was following this teacher. And one of the things that this teacher would do, he would tell people what they were thinking and all of that. And it was like an entertainment show out of Vegas, the way he would do it. But I couldn't get through to this person that this is a fraud until he showed me a video of this minister on the street with a little boy, and he was lengthening the leg of the little boy. And there was a video camera, and sure enough, the little boy's leg was about an inch shorter than the other, and he lengthened it right there. And so this person thought that that was proof that this guy had the power to heal. So I pointed out to him that these instances of the leg being lengthened are documented 300 years back by shysters and charlatans, because it's really a matter of manipulating the shoe and a little bit of the adjusting the leg. Nobody's leg gets longer. It's just a temporary thing. He makes it look longer, and then the other one comes up, and now it looks like it's the same length. So I pointed out that this was a very common trick done by a lot of people. Second thing I pointed out, if this guy that you admire has the gift of healing, I mean, that's like a miracle from God that he would bestow in this day and age a gift of physical healing. Do you think that God intends that person to take a camera and talk to a little boy and make a leg longer? Is that really what the supernatural gift of healing would be used for? No. Go to the burn ward where children are in pain and suffering. If you have the physical gift of healing, go heal. Let us watch the wounds of a burn victim go away instantly. It doesn't happen, people. So when you see these things, you fall for these things. No wonder that you're really struggling to know what's right and wrong. But this is the kind of person, the person that falls into this and has nobody around them, no peer relationships to say you need to really question that. Then you end up way deep in it before anything happens that you start to question. And then vivid fantasy world. If you have a vivid fantasy world, then you may always be wishing for the supernatural, hoping for the miracle so God can prove himself. And of course, it doesn't happen in reality. Now, miracles happen, but they don't happen up on a stage with cameras and lights. I mean, they might, but that's not the typical way that they happen. They happen in the dark. Feelings are not shared in a person that's susceptible to a toxic faith system. So if you have a hard time opening up, sharing your feelings, you're closed off, then you're going to fit right in because you're not going to be talking a lot. You're going to be listening a lot. I believe in listening, but I also believe in speaking up for what's right. And when you're in a church and it looks like everybody around you is hurting, that they're struggling and suffering, maybe there's a problem with the leadership of that church. Maybe these are the kind of people that have been attracted in because they can be manipulated, controlled, they can be inspired to do things, serve beyond anything you could imagine, give money beyond anything you could imagine. All of that happens in a toxic faith system. I want you to know about it. Those are the foundations. What are the foundations? People. These are the characteristics of the people that provide the foundation that brings in more people to be given a faith that isn't the faith of Jesus Christ. I'll see you next time. We'll talk more about toxic faith then. Thank you for joining me for Going Deeper. I hope something I've said may have helped just a little bit. If you have a question you'd like me to answer or comment, just email me at stevesocial@newlife.com. I'll see you next time.
If you want to support Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn, be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you know someone who would benefit from this episode, be sure to share it with them. See you on the next Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn from New Life Ministries.